Hello, my name is Andy Regueira, and this is the final week's video documentation for the eEVA data generation and user results analysis senior project. This is going to be the administrator guide video for version 2.0. Keep in mind that the things that the administrator can do in version 2.0 are almost the same things that you can do in version 1.0. So if you want to take a look at the previous video documentation from 2016, you can do so. It has a lot of information, almost the same thing that will be covered here. So first things first, this is the home page, and then as an administrator you can do three things. You can log out of your account, and then if you do that you can sign in using ASCL for both username and password, and then you can log in. Once you're logged in, you have two options that you can do. You can go to the survey editor, and here you have a list of all surveys that eEVA has. In this case, surveys, you could say they are the information of the system. So these are all of the things that the counselors will speak, all of the surveys that the users will have to take, and from this GUI, from this interface, you can actually edit them, so you can make any changes, and then the users will be able to see those changes. So for example, if I go to this survey right here, the first thing that you should know is that you can add different components. So you can add a question answer like this right here, and what that is just like you could say it's a sentence, an input field, and then you have some string value, and then it will have a button, just like a form without the input field. And then once you click that button, it will transition to the next state. So the other thing that you can do is a checkbox, and that is exactly what it is, just a checkbox. You can either check one box or check the other. So text area, which I don't think, text area is just that, text area. So feedback is just a subset of the feedback list, and as you can see here, when you add a feedback list, you have different feedback inside of that, and then each feedback will be spoken by the counselor, or it will be displayed on the screen. So if you want to add more feedback, you can do so. You can add as much feedback as you want, and then you can also remove it. Keep in mind that every time you make changes and then you want to commit them, you have to update, so the database gets updated. You can remove each of the changes that you make, and last thing, you can add content. So content is just the HTML content, the CSS or JavaScript that you want to add for a specific view. For example, here, if you toggle the editor, you will see what that survey will look like. So in order for you to edit this, you will have to Control A, copy and paste it somewhere else, and then make the changes. So you can also add links to external files such as CSS files or JavaScript files, so it's easier, and you can actually make use of some consistency and reuse some code, so you don't have to go to each specific survey and then add some styling manually and hard code all of those values. So you just might as well use one CSS file for all of the surveys that may share the same look. So you can, as I said, so you can rename the surveys, you can delete them, and you can add new surveys. So that's pretty much it for the survey editor. So if you go to the stay machine, after you add your service and whatever information into the database, you want to make sure that if you want to use it in the application, you have to integrate it to the application. And if you go here to the stay machine DCU complete intervention, this is like the main flow of the application. This is the heart of eEVA, right? So I believe this is stay machine and eEVA will be at one of these state nodes at any point in time. So you can see here these are transition arrows, and that depicts the flow of events. So right now eEVA will start here, and then it will greet the user, and then it will follow this path. So as you can see, there are many things that will not get covered. So this is the main, flow of events. So if you want to test out, for example, a survey that you created, all you have to do is just click on an arrow. Make sure you don't click on a node, because then you're gonna have to redo everything. But if you click on a transition arrow, you can delete that arrow, and then you can create another arrow attaching it to whatever it is you want your state node to go to. So that will change the way the application will execute. So in order for you to create new states, you have to create something like this. You have to do node, and then you create a state. So every time you make a change, you have to save it, and then if you go to the state machine, here you have all of the states, right? You should see that state here, but it doesn't show because in version 2.0 there were many changes, and there are things that don't work anymore as they were actually shown in version 1.0. So for example, if you want to create a new state from here, that won't work. You can't do that. So also the tree view in version 1.0, you can actually see the tree view, and then you have an option to get the Mongo element IDs of whatever this thing was, and that, as you can see, the tree view doesn't work. So if I go to the main flow of events, so the node still appears here, but it just doesn't show in the state machine to be able to edit that node. So let's delete that, and then let's save it. So another thing is that each node that you see here can be made up of subnodes or different states. So for example, this is a survey, and this is the the state, getting what you want. But if you go to the state machine and then you click on that state, you will see that it's made up of different nodes. So this will be start node, and that will just be state empty, and then each of these nodes represents a Mongo element ID reference, and the type of state node that will be is an exec Mongo element. That means that it will start here with nothing, and then it will go to that Mongo element ID, it will go to the next one, and then until it finishes. So that's how eEVA is able to transition. That's how the cancelers are able to go from one sentence onto the next. So keep in mind that, as I said before, every node that you see here is made up of different ones in some cases. So in order for you to create a new state in this version 2.0, since there are like many bugs, you actually have to come here, and then you see there's nothing here. So you have to click this thing and come here. This is like a hack, a workaround, because there are many other things that don't work. So you create name whatever, and then you add that. You save it, and then let's see what that does. So you see, so now you go to the end of the state machine, and then you will see that new state here, and that will be it. And then here you can do something like state empty, right? So you can name it, you can use the same convention. And then again, like depending on what you may need to do, you probably have to use different states. But if you want to just make use of the states that will handle the surveys, then things like exec Mongo element will be what you need, because they will essentially just access the database and get that information or the information that you need from the database, and then you can create the transitions here and then save it. So that's that. For the state machine, if you want to delete one state, just come here, delete. Oh my god, it's below. Okay, it's gonna be painful. Okay, let's see that there. So new load, right? So it deleted it. So yeah, that's pretty much what you need to do for the state machine. Again, main flow, and then for example, just to show you here, right now the application will start. It will, initialize whatever things it needs to initialize, the necessary stuff, and then it will greet the user. So if I go to counseling view, I select the counselor, she will probably just say hello, I'm whatever, and then she will greet the user, as you can see here. She's not speaking because there are like a bunch of issues with certificates, so probably, hopefully it will be fixed in the future. So that's that. So let's say you complete a survey in the survey editor, and then you want to see how that will look when it's being executed. How will the user see that survey that you created? Because one thing is the survey editor, the toggle view, that may display one way, and then when you actually go to the counseling view, since it's being integrated and then it's being added on top of other things, it may not look that way, or the way that you wanted it to look. So for example, here, this is the main flow, and then let's say I want to test a survey that I created. So these are all surveys that were created in version 2.0. So let's go to this one. I save it, and then I do the counseling view. So now the application, since I changed the flow of events, it will execute in a different way. It will go from initializing all of the components straight to a survey instead of like going to greet the user. And that's a helpful thing when you want to test whatever you create. So as you can see, it wasn't really greeting the user anymore, it just went straight to the survey. So, and that's pretty much what you can do from an administrator's perspective. Let me see if I'm missing something. Right, so again, TrueView doesn't work, and the things that you can do, you can just add things, surveys, update the database, and then just use the state machine. If I missed something, I believe version 1.0 talks about other things in the survey editor, but it's essentially the same thing, since version 2.0 didn't really change the way the administrator adds things. We just created surveys and then worked on the front end. So yeah, that should be it for the administrator guide. Hopefully it will help you if you run into some of the issues that I mentioned here, and or you may need to do similar things to what we did on version 2.0. So yeah, thanks for watching.